We're talking real estate, and we're talking Concord right now. I'm joined by one of the top agents in the Concord market, Chris Ridick from Coldwell Banker. And Chris, Concord is one of those towns, it's just a great place to live.
It is, Chris. It offers, a lot of things for buyers coming out, especially from the city, but we also have relo buyers, especially people with young children who want to get their kids into the schools. We've got the #2 ranked school system according to Boston Magazine.
That's it?
That's it. It's pretty good. We're
kidding.
usually
It's
top 10, I
Yeah.
know. But we got up to #2, so that's a big driver. And the historic nature of the town, the proximity to Boston and Cambridge and Waltham, all help drive the market there.
It's got a little bit of history, right?
It does.
One of those
revolution.
towns. Yeah, and that actually is a driver for people to buy.
It is, absolutely. I think a lot of times we have tourists who come through the area who kind of aren't familiar with the town until they go on some of those tourist trips around to take a look at the Old North Bridge and Walden Pond and all those places. And then they fall in love with the town when they see it. So
Chris, you have a builder background, right? You build a lot of homes. The trend for a lot of years, especially in towns like Concord, to build that 5,000, 7,000, 10,000 square foot homes. It seems like trends in real estate are actually going in the other direction right now.
Absolutely, Chris. Yeah, I think even for the people who want a freestanding single family home, they mostly want, a 3,500 or 3,000 square foot house that's well laid out and meets their needs. They don't need necessarily a big formal dining room, a big formal living room that frankly they rope off except for the holidays. They want a very functional open floor plan that they use every day. And then the other trend we're seeing is a lot of folks want to downsize to like condominiums, and they're generally good with a 1,500 square foot or 1,800 square foot type of unit. And that's something that we wish we had more of in the market because we have a lot of demand for it, especially from people in town who want to downsize but also stay in town.
You wonder if that trend will change where rather than selling the huge lot with the huge home, that you sell the opportunity to maybe cut it in half and sell two different homes.
Absolutely. No, I think if you can get the higher density and you can get the condominiums built, there certainly is more demand for that than there is for the 10,000 square foot house on the multiple acres in town. The zoning in town will also impact that too, because there are parts of town where you need to have 2 acres to have a single family house, and all the condo developments in town require a special permit and quite a bit of work to do to get those approvals.
There's a common trend across a lot of the greater Boston area, theme I should say, which is low inventory. Is that the case out in that area?
It's interesting, Chris. We've actually seen, I looked this morning, we've got I think 87 listings on the market, which is about 30% higher than it was a year ago. So we're actually starting to see the trend rise a bit more, and a lot of those homes that are for sale are priced under $1 million, which for Concord is considered the more affordable end of the market. So there's a little bit of shift there. It's still, if you look at the total inventory, it's about 5 months of inventory, which we still consider a bit of a seller's market. But once you get to 6 months, 7 months, it balances out, and then you start to work towards a buyer's market. So there seems to be a little bit of a trend away from that incredibly tight inventory shortage that we've had in years past. It's expanding a little bit more, probably because sellers are getting to hear all these stories about how much they can get for the house and what a great time it is to sell. They're listing their houses a little bit more freely.
So if you're running into jams right now in other markets where it's bidding war after bidding war,
right,
you got a little bit more inventory out in the Concord area.
Come on out to Concord, exactly. We do have a little more inventory to show people than you would certainly in the Lexington and closer markets to Boston. I think those are the areas where you're still seeing a lot more bidding wars and things being priced higher. Concord, we still occasionally have multiple offer situations, but it's not the 12, 15 offers that you hear about in Arlington and Cambridge.
With all of your experience in real estate, from building and selling, when you take a step back right now, where do you see the opportunity in the greater Boston area when it comes to real estate?
That's a good question, Chris. I think, we were talking about builders buying, the smaller homes and tearing them down in town. I think the volume of builders looking, at least in a place like Concord, is so high right now. I think they tend to be squeezing down their profit margin significantly. We're seeing these $499, $599 houses being bid up by $100,000 with 10, 12 offers. So the profit margin that most of the builders are looking for is kind of squeezed out of those numbers. And so it's a good time if you're selling, a smaller house like that with the builders kind of swarming around it. But I do think there's an opportunity if someone can get a little creative with the permitting process to be able to do a condo development, say, of multiple units that are smaller versus just that big new house going up, over and over again for $1.5 million to $2 million.
And in regards to your team, you operate out of the Concord office?
We do. Yep, we operate out of the Concord office on Monument Street.
And you have marketing person, stager.
We do, yeah. We have all 4 of the people I work with are all licensed agents. They're all fantastic agents, but we do have one fella, Andrew Martini, who does a great job handling all of our marketing, phenomenal brochures, mailings, some of our ads that we put into publications. We have someone else who handles the staging part of our business, and she does a great job of getting the house and the condos ready for sale for us. We have another experienced agent who just came from one of our competitors who wanted to join the group. And then we have an agent from China, from Beijing, who has a great direct connection to the buyers coming from China who are looking to buy here in the United States and move money out of that country and put it into real estate here.
It's key to have a stager on your team, right? I mean, that has completely changed over the years. Staging occasionally came into the game. Now it's almost a must.
I think so. I think like the West Coast was ahead of us in terms of that. I think everybody out in California knew about staging probably 10 or 15 years ago, and for us it's been a little bit slower adoption rate. But it's imperative, I think, for people to get their house looking as good as possible to appeal to the younger buyers that are coming to see them. It doesn't always work. Sometimes we have the older antique homes with wallpaper and shag carpeting, all those things, and sometimes those sellers aren't as willing to do that work and to get it looking a little fresher. But if they do, they're rewarded on their price, for sure.
The fact is that usually staging is less of an investment than the first price reduction, right? So it's
far less, absolutely.
Worth looking into. Well, thank you, Chris. And if you'd like to connect with Chris and his team directly, you can go to his website at chrisridick.com. That's Chris Ridick with 1D.com. And remember, we have more real estate tips just like this one right here on Boston.com.